Guys, one thing that I would kind of implore you to think about is how this is happening on a Friday, okay? And what we've seen in the past, basically, from this administration is that a lot of times they come out with this kind of like shocking bad news on Friday. You know, I hate to be cynical about it. Like, I know it kind of gets under the skin of some people, but what we've seen just time and time again during this cycle, especially over the last year, is that there will be a lot of insiders ready to go to dump or to buy, like immediately. They will do it before market open. They will do it on Friday nights. They will do it on Thursday nights. All of these things, they're ready to go to do something because they have a heads up on some insider information. And then the administration, right, there'll be like government notices or some type of a drama based around the government right on a Friday. All right. And what happens is that markets shut down on the weekends. Okay, so you notice the time right now? The markets are about to shut down. This is how the markets are going to close for the weekend. And that gives the administration, you know, again, I hate to be cynical about it, but that gives insiders and the administration time to fix the issue before Monday open. And then what happens, what we've seen time and time again, is that this same circle, okay, is ready to go to buy up whatever got cleaned up on the next by the next Monday before the opening bell. And you know, there have been a lot of traders who have basically been following this pattern. I know Gareth Soloway has made a big deal about this. He's, you know, he's very aware of it as well. A bunch of others have commented on it. And, you know, it's something that we have to be aware of, that if this is going to be a shakeout, if this is going to be a fake out, they would resolve it probably by Monday, and we would maybe see a big continuation. Right here, we have an optimal trading entry, right? Basically, although this is impulsive, it really depends on where the candles close. And sometimes we can even give it to the next candle to see if we get like a V-shaped recovery, even if we do break some levels. I think you guys all seen in the past where we just have the next candle just engulf, you know, the 50% of the move. So we'll see if like within Monday, Tuesday, they can drive this thing back up. Okay. What it does during the weekend is going to be a bit confusing because we have, of course, we have to also think about, you know, the CME chart, right? And look here, market closed. Market closed. Do you see this on the CME chart? So here on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, look at where we closed at, 113, right? Let's go back to my chart. What's our line in the sand, right? 113 was our warning level. So, you know, technically speaking, if they want to have a shakeout during the weekend and basically break retail's backs so that a whole bunch of insiders can fill their bags or do something pretty greedy, and then they solve the problem by Monday or Tuesday, right? And then we get that kind of Monday, Tuesday turnaround, which we often see in markets. Then by Wednesday or Thursday, you know, of course, you know, this market, if we get a bounce back on the CME chart, right, on that Monday, Tuesday, and we hold above that neutral point, this chart is still going to look strong. This is actually going to be still in a position of strength. And in fact, we've just come back to support. So next Monday, this could open up in support, or, you know, on the weekend when we get an open. Fua, I'm just going to server mute just because of the little noise there. One thing to pay attention to is our BTC dominance theory. Guys, I gave you a... Oh my god, this thing shot up even more since I circled it. Okay, so last time we checked, right, which is a day ago, we were down here. And basically, we've been targeting, okay, as part of our strategy here at AR, we've been targeting the 62% level. And I told you that that it's very likely that we're going to wick up into the 64 to 66% area, basically because of this back wick over here, and then also this bearish order block. What I'm looking for is either a rejection on this bearish order block right here, in which case, you know, we would have been looking at 60 to 62 area as a potential turnaround. I think Reda had actually mentioned to you guys that 60% BTC dominance is where he was looking for a possible next lower high. If we miss that target, and obviously we're pushing through it because of the scare tactics this weekend, right? Then we're going to be pushing into this upper order block. Now, the reason why we were focused on high caps and the upper mid caps and not looking at small caps is because of this type of an issue. You know, when we have a market dump, we might see 5% down, 10% down on some high caps, but we might see, you know, 30% down or 50% down on some of these smaller mid caps and even micro caps. I mean, I can just take a look at, you know, man, there's a lot of red on this chart right now. Like everything is going nuts. Okay, look at Morpho, 50% down, right? So these things are taking it on the chin. This looks like a you know, a capitulation event, right? It looks like a capitulation is being started in many of these coins where they're liquidating those ranges that they've been forming. And you know, if we get a turnaround on BTC dominance, let's just say that we kind of cool our jets, we kind of sit back just a little bit, right? We had our stop losses in place, right? Everyone was fully protected, I hope, this time, okay? Like, I hope you guys made the wise decision and put those stop losses, and that you've been moving it up as you've been getting into profits, right? You've been moving it up, you haven't been greedy, right? You haven't just been leaving it in place, and you've been creeping up that stop loss as you've been taking just, you know, really reasonable profits and not looking for us to moon when it's not necessarily the full-blown altcoin season yet. If we get a lower high on Bitcoin dominance and this thing starts turning around, right? So we bump our head into this area, this bearish order block up here starts resisting us, and then we start getting this turnaround, we're going to have a diagonal here, or we're going to have something that's going to indicate this thing's going to start breaking down. And that's probably going to be the start of the real altcoin season. Not the fake out altcoin seasons, but the real altcoin season. And if we scroll backwards in time, right, we see a very, very similar phenomenon back here. So this is, guys, this is what we've been talking about in the macro for like the last, you know, 3 or 4 months. We've been waiting for this moment. We've been waiting for this this breakdown on Bitcoin dominance. And then all we're waiting for is that push up. This is basically the equivalent of where we are right now. And then the next, you know, maybe the next push to the upside before we get that rejection. Guys, during these liquidation events, you know, all exchanges are going to, I don't know if you were here last cycle. It happens every freaking time. Every time we get a dump, you know, that's like a 10% or more, what happens is just all of the panic sets in. If you guys have your stop losses in place, then what you do is you write a ticket up to the exchange if your stop loss doesn't get hit, okay? As long as it's on the record, very often these exchanges do help you with it. However, if you get blocked out of an exchange, it's no different than, you know, if you misplaced your ledger or something like that, okay? It's the same principle of not my keys, you know, not my money, right? And so just keep trying, guys. I know these things are terrible moments. You know, the VIPs have actually what's called a VIP connection to the exchanges, but, you know, retail is basically fighting for bandwidth right now. Yeah. All right, let's see. Let's just see if there's any questions here. Let's see. What needs to happen for us to see that push up at a macro level? Okay, well, you know, in the macro sessions, you know, we were also talking about how we got this breakdown back here. Do you guys remember these days? Right? I mean, you know, any old timers in here that remember this breakdown right here, right? Look at this one right here, right? Look at this one right here. Doesn't this look very similar to our current setup? And doesn't this look like our current drop right here? Right? So we're going to be looking, you know, what's the dead cat bounce going to be looking like? Okay? What type of a bounce are we going to get off of this type of a capitulation event? And is it going to spill us over? And are we going to get that you know, that extended stair step that then leads us into 2026, and maybe 2026, the first quarter of 2026, or maybe after Jerome Powell leaves office or whatever, and then into the summer of 2026, do we get that extended bull market, right? Or, you know, are we at the equivalent, you know, of just right here, we're going to have a shallow bounce, right? And just, you know, the equivalent of back here, and are we going to have pullbacks that just continue to go down? This is the moment, right? This is the moment where you have to make a decision about your coins, very hard decisions, and then what we look for is a bottoming pattern, okay? We don't know exactly what's going to happen to change the scenario, We do have CPI data that's going to come out that's going to suggest if inflation is higher than expected, it could be that the market's anticipating that. It could be that the Fed is kind of sending out feelers that, you know, maybe they're not going to be able to cut rates. We don't know. If that's the case, okay, then we could actually see a continued cascade down after that CPI data comes out later this month. We're in a very delicate political environment right now between the tariffs, inflation, and then also you know, some of these other issues related to the rate cuts. So my recommendation to you is just to have your plan, stick to your plan. If your plan isn't going as you hoped it would, then what you're going to do is wait for these type of bottoming patterns here, right? Again, it doesn't have to be the first bounce, it could be the second bounce, whatever, blah blah blah. And if you start seeing any type of strength here on a time frame that makes sense for you to trading, then that's the opportunity that you would like to take. And again, guys, I showed that in the, I dropped it in the main chat, but what this is called, it's called an OTE. It's called an optimal trading entry. Okay. And so you can see the average price back here. You can see the trend line that we broke. You can see the back test that we're making. And then I showed you guys, right, the CME chart where it closed. And so if all of this gets frozen above 113, then we are still above that optimal trading entry. In other words, that's where you take a chance. If you see Bitcoin dominance starting to slow down and start to round out over the top here, again, you don't have to use the wick, right? You can use the next couple candles. It's not going to take this big time frame I drew out here, right? It's going to just take a couple candles. Right? That was just for exaggeration. You know, you could see something like this. You know, they pushed it up, they pushed it down, maybe they push it up again, some bearish divergence here, you know, something like this. And at some point it just breaks down, and that's your entry here, while Bitcoin is also making a little local bottom at whatever price it hits, right? Then that's your entry. And the only question is, does that become a dead cat bounce? Right? Does that become a dead cat bounce because Bitcoin is just so strong that it continues to make a higher low on Bitcoin dominance? As long as we don't make that higher low on Bitcoin dominance and this breakdown, this lower high, right, becomes a downtrend, right, and we take out this low here, if we ever take out this low under 57% here on Bitcoin dominance, then you will know that we are continuing into the real altcoin season, okay, because that's going to be now officially a big time frame downtrend on this guy, and that's just going to be a major rejection wherever this thing eventually gets rejected at. Let's go back to the chart just because it's moving so fast. Okay.
Yo, Scott, would you mind if I also share my screen? I didn't do it for a while.
Yeah. Actually, Retta, why don't you take over from here, okay? And then I'll jump in at the end if you have to go.
I mean, it's up to them.
No, just do it, man. Yeah, you're always welcome.
Okay, cool. Let me just do my screen. Just want to show a couple things, and I have to sleep anyways. 1 sec.